Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. After a week off, we're back. I'm very excited to be here. Of course, I'm only here one day, and then I'm going on family vacation. So Dallas and John are going to be taking care of you the rest of the week. I'll be back next week. I will definitely miss my scheduled hobby time, but I am super excited that today was the day that I was able to do the stream because, of course, if you haven't seen it, go check out our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. We just posted up the next big thing from Marvel Crisis Protocol, which is going to be the Mystic Wave, as we call it. It's Doctor Strange, all of these awesome magical characters, including one of my personal favorites, Dr. Voodoo. I cannot wait to finally get to paint this guy. I've been dreaming about making him since we started the game. He is one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, and I just am so thrilled for everyone to get to see what we did with that character. Of course, the whole wave is really cool and interesting. There's a lot of things that we can chat about. I can't give too many spoilers today, but I'm going to do my best to kind of just work around. If you haven't checked out the video, go check it out. Otherwise, we're here. We're going to be painting up the brand new Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, a whole new version, a new take on Doctor Strange. Very different playstyle, very different ways in which he fits into Marvel Crisis Protocol. It's one of the blasts about getting to work on this game is reimagining and re-envisioning characters in different iterations throughout their big long tenures in Marvel history. So this is obviously from the 2018 Doctor Strange run. This character comes after all of the magic has been sucked out of the world, and he has to go into space, of all places, to re-find magic. And so this is where the suit comes from. It's often referred to as the Doctor Strange spacesuit, all this stuff. But a very different and cool interpretation of this character that we haven't seen before in Crisis Protocol. And of course, for us, I'm going to get this camera off of me as I talk about this part. A huge leap forward in terms of just our imagining of what a miniature can be. The whole sculpt came out of this real discussion internally about, okay, we wanted to do a new Doctor Strange. Which version we were going to do? We hit upon the run where he kind of goes to space. We really liked that suit. We'd shown it off in art before. And then it came down to, okay, what is he doing? And Dallas and I were talking about optical illusions and shadow boxes. And basically the conversation came, could we make him coming out of a literal portal? And could we make that look good? And this is what we finally came up with. And honestly, it looks a lot like the cobbled together version that Dallas did to prove the concept initially, which was largely built out of pink foam, a little bit of glue, and an old Doctor Strange miniature, the original Doctor Strange. And so we built a fabrication of it. We all looked at it. We all agreed that it was definitely something that we could do. And then we turned Marco and the rest of the sculpting and engineering team on it. And this is the magic that they came up with. I love this miniature. I love everything that it brings to it. And it's just perfect. I mean, it literally looks like he's coming out of the portal. So couldn't be happier with everything that we're doing. And it's just another one of those fun things at Atomic Mass. We're always pushing ourselves. We're always trying to do weird and crazy things. And every once in a while, the idea gets past the drawing board stage and becomes into reality, and we get to just kind of enjoy all of the fruits of it. You can see there's dimensional bubbles in the back, so you can paint a whole different scene back there, all that stuff. So with that, let's go ahead and just start knocking out colors and get things a going. So I'm going to start on the cloak just because it's the biggest part. I'm going to be using my Model Air Red, which is what I typically use for any of our nice comic booky reds. This will make painting the cloak go really nice, really quick. And yeah, so the back foot connects right back in here, hidden in the portal. So that's what all holds him together. There's a big old connection point back there. So he's pretty stable. All right, so we're just going to start. And I'm going to be a little careful not to put any of this red over the trim if I can avoid it. But if we do slop over the yellow ochre that we'll use, we'll definitely be able to make up for it. It's a little warm today. I need to thin out that paint just a little bit more. There we go. But yeah, so this Doctor Strange is a brand new version of Doctor Strange. It's why he has the moniker Sorcerer Supreme. So he is very different rules-wise, role-wise from the first Doctor Strange, who's also the Defender's leadership. This Doctor Strange, as people have figured out, does introduce a brand new affiliation. However, I'll give you a tiny bit of a spoiler. Everything with the Mystics that we did is very different. This was certainly something where we took the opportunity to kind of take the weird mystical world of Marvel and do some very unexpected and different things in the game itself. So despite the fact that there's a brand new affiliation called the Convocation, and Dormammu, who we can also show off in the video, also comes with a new affiliation. Neither affiliation works like any other affiliation before it. There are some pretty crazy things about them. For example, the Convocation does not have a specific leader, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Um, and you can speculate on what exactly that means and how that works, but there is no single individual leader rule. And that was really fun to kind of come up with and make them very different. The Convocation, of course, comes from another Doctor Strange run where Doctor Strange pulls together all the mystics to face off a incredible threat of Galactus, who has snuck into the world of magic and is now kind of going crazy and all this stuff. So he pulls together all of the greatest mystical masters of the Marvel Universe, calls them the Convocation. That was kind of the inspiration behind our version of the Convocation in the game. And so one of the things that we just started playing with is very different. The tactic cards that these characters will come with are also extraordinarily different. They were a lot of fun to kind of conjure up, and they certainly work in a very unique way, making the whole affiliation kind of function very differently. And I think really hits the note of what the mystics in Marvel are like. They're not like anything else. They kind of play by their own rules. They do things differently, and it was fun to bring that to light and really design and develop something that does have its very own unique flavor in the game. And so the whole thing was just an exciting opportunity to kind of stretch ourselves, do some more wacky stuff that totally fit within the narrative and everything else. And of course, working on characters like Dormammu is one of Pagani's favorite things. It's one of Dallas's favorite things. A lot of people in the office who love the big, scary characters. It looks like my glue job is not going to stick, so we'll just do this. It'll be fine. Haha, come here. All right. We saw them all together. It's fine. I just didn't glue them very well, it looks like. So, but, so it was really fun to do Dormammu. He's been a character that we've had in the works forever. He was always the planned follow-up to Thanos' Ultimate Encounter. And so he just takes the whole Ultimate Encounter experience that we did with Thanos and just cranks it all the way up past 11. We learned so much working on Thanos and kind of what we could do, and as we grew as a studio and kind of moved into new things. Like a little fuzzy on my brush. We were able to apply all of that to the Dormammu encounter and just make something really compelling and interesting. And I'm excited for people to attempt to stop Dormammu's incursion and just be terrified as the master of the dark dimension continues to put the smackdown on them as they do their best to stop them with their feeble efforts. Overall, such a fun and rewarding wave to put together. And we got to do some really awesome terrain with Dormammu, of course, to set the stage. So he does come with his dimensional incursion terrain, which is used specifically in the Ultimate Encounter with the rules, and characters will have to interact with it and stuff like that. And then also, of course, you can use it to set your own Marvel Crisis Protocol regular battles with the incursion happening through the Dark Dimension, all that good stuff. And I will give one small spoiler because I know people have been speculating. Dormammu is 100% the most expensive threat level character in the game. So he's a big scary threat, regardless of whether you're playing the Ultimate Encounter or just playing a standard game of Crisis Protocol. He, of course, also has his own affiliation that he introduces to the game, and just like the Convocation works very differently, his affiliation also works uniquely. And all I'll really say about that is, of course, I've seen a lot of people being like, well, it doesn't really make sense that Dormammu would, work for other people. That's not really Dormammu's MO. And you would be correct. Dormammu does not work for other people. People work for Dormammu. So he's a big, nasty guy. That's right. Okay, so we're going to let that dry. I'm going to move on. I'm going to grab some Holder Blue. We're going to do a very quick undercoat of this blue to tint our black. I think we're going to use some blues. I want to use some purples. I want to just kind of like go crazy with the blacks here because he is very the spacesuit, of course, has a lot of dark color to it, but I want to get those different undertones going on. I want to have like that mystical connection. Those who watched the May roster challenge will have seen that Dallas used a magenta undertone on his miniatures, which he applied with an airbrush. It turned out really cool. So using undertones especially when you're doing washes and stuff, can really change the overall tone and feel of your color that goes on top. And it's really fun to play with undertones because of that, especially when working on things like blacks, because when you do the wash in black, you're going to see that translucency come through. And so our blue black is going to look very different from our purple black, and they'll still tie together as black, but it'll provide this nice little contrast. Visually, that's going to be cool. It'll help with that mystic kind of flavor and feel. So it should be pretty good. But of course, along with the Mystic Wave, Dormammu, Doctor Strange, very exciting. Dr. Voodoo, one of my all-time favorites. Just can't be more than happy that he's going to finally be in the game. I had a ton of fun designing him. In fact, the whole wave was just so fun to kind of look at. People have also noticed that we kind of did our first MCU-inspired characters in both Mordo and the Ancient One. This was really kind of came out of a conversation of looking at the current designs and kind of what we felt was going to fit best with what we're attempting to do with the MCP aesthetic and design. Looking at that inclusivity and diversity of characters and all of that good stuff. And we just really felt like those versions of the characters were the ones that felt the most right for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And iconic and look-wise, they're very cool designs. It was a lot of fun to play with them. I love what we were able to accomplish with Mordo's vaulting boots of Valtor effect, where he's like leaping up the whole thing on those mystical effects, and it just looks so awesome and very magical. And that was, of course, one of the biggest things that we always strove with when working on the wave was we wanted to make sure that their weird power sets came through in like a really neat and compelling way. And so it was fun. It was fun to be able to work on that stuff and kind of see it all come to fruition. Okay, I'm going to switch over to a purple undertone now. And I've decided I'm going to make the body of the suit. Turn on that light just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Maybe a bit too much. Yeah, the Mordo mini is just awesome. Looks fantastic. A lot of fun with that vaulting effect. We kind of drew it, and then it was like, okay, well, the engineers are going to have to figure out how it's going to be stable and how it can be designed and all this stuff. And so it's another one where this entire wave really pushed us in the studio in a lot of ways that we never really expected or thought about initially. And it was a fun challenge to kind of come up with all these crazy special effects and all these really cool energy like spirals and portals and all of this stuff that honestly I never really expected that we were going to wind up doing. So, BK just dropping time periods. Yeah, everything is currently slated for September. Of course, global shipping and logistics has been a bit of a wild ride lately, as I think everybody can attest if you happen to try to get anything these days. Between pallet shortages, container shortages, ship shortages, my heart goes out to anyone who works in logistics and shipping. You're all goddamn heroes in my mind. And, we'll get back to normal eventually, but a little bit of understanding and patience for anyone who kind of knows what's going on and has dealt with it personally. So we have all the hopes that it'll work out, but obviously we're just kind of going along for the ride as well and seeing how things work out in the end. But everything will show up eventually, and it's all been done and built. So it will arrive sooner rather than later. All right. It's doing that. I do ask nicely. It is a thing I do. You can always not listen too. But unfortunately, I think you're only kind of going to hurt yourself if you don't take into account the fact that things are a bit wild out there right now. Railway systems are overloaded, all that stuff. It's, like I said, my honest heartfelt thank you so much and I'm so sorry goes to anyone who works in shipping and logistics, because I don't even know how you would manage it right now. It's just so crazy. What do we want to do here? Is that part of the boot? Just do this. It'll be all right. Yeah, we'll come down here into this. Do that. We've got some brown leather that I think we're going to put on here too, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. We're just going to kind of knock this stuff out. Hood was another one that was super fun. We got to go back to the transform mechanic on him. So Ant-Man and Wasp will no longer be the only transforming characters. So Hood gets to shift back and forth between his human form and his Nasante demon form. And he has a unique way of doing that, which I won't spoil too much, but it's certainly, he's very terrifying when he does transform, but there are ways to force him back. And so smart players do have a little bit of a workaround. He kind of took the Green Goblin approach of, he's a character that has a certain threat value, but he kind of plays above his weight class, but he has some very unique drawbacks and kind of play arounds that you can utilize that mitigate the fact that he can hit well above his threat value for smart players to use. And I always like characters like that kind of offer interesting puzzles. You know what? I think we're just going to go back. I was thinking about doing 3 tones of black, but I don't think I'm going to. I think we're just going to come back in here and finish out the whole boot. In a lot of the comics and stuff that I was looking at for reference, he kind of has his boots and then he has his leggings, and his leggings go into his boots. But I think for this, just kind of because I don't want to paint 50 tones of blue, 50 shades of blue, 50 undertones, as it were. I'm just going to make them blue. I'm not going to be as artsy as I was originally thinking, because I want to have some time here. And then we'll knock these in. So, but Hood is very cool. I'll be honest that some people have noticed that he has 2 stat cards in the pack that he comes with the with Dr. Voodoo, and not really a spoiler, but everything we wanted to do with that character and the way in which he transforms required us to basically split his stat card into 2. So it still works exactly like a normal transforming character, but you have to put 2 stat cards side by side because we wanted to make sure that we fit all of the rules text that was necessary on there. And so that's why he has 2 different stat cards. Basically, they sit next to each other and just make one giant stat card. But it was really important so that we captured the flavor and the feel of that character and just made sure everything was good. We'll mix up a really quick black wash. And then so I'm just going to use some black ink, some flat black, a little bit of mixing medium, and I'm just going to thin that out just a little bit. And we're just going to start washing this over everything. There's a lot of, when people draw things, we talk about this quite a bit, but when things get drawn, kind of similar when things get made for like digital video games and stuff, you don't really have to worry about exactly how it works in 3 dimensions because it's never actually in 3 dimensions. So there's definitely some liberties, and that's part of what our engineering team is so great about figuring out. And kind of what we have to watch out for in sculpting and stuff is just like, okay, well, it's drawn like this, but that doesn't actually work once you turn it around. And try as we might, everybody wants to turn their miniatures around. So how does that actually work, and what does it mean, and what does it mean? It's very interesting. All right. But yes, Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme is definitely the more offensive and aggressive version of Strange. So he's taken the fight to people. He is kind of harnesses his magic in a much different way than the first Doctor Strange that got released for the game. Whereas that version of Doctor Strange is very more in the support role mentality. Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, as you'd expect from a man who heads off into space in a rocket ship given to him by Tony Stark, is much more of a go-getter. He's far more interested in getting things done himself, and therefore he is far more aggressive in terms of play style and like what he wants to do and where he excels. So you will definitely have to make a choice, not only based on your affiliation desires and stuff, but even in play, kind of what you want your character to do. What do you want your Doctor Strange to fill in terms of role and stuff or everything else? So, and like I said before, that's something that I think is really fun and enjoyable about Crisis Protocol in general, is the fact that we do get to revisit characters. We get to pull from different story arcs and different times of the character's life and power abilities and all that stuff. And we can create really unique and different characters based on all of that offer more choices and more interest to the game. So, oh yeah, Space Knight Venom, that was a good one. Flash Thompson. Kind of need an Agent Venom first, though, I think, if you want to follow chronology, which, we don't care about too much. All things have occurred, so if there's something that's cool to be made and then we think it fits well for the game, we will definitely jump ahead in our chronology versus behind it. I'm kind of surprised. I was fully expecting everyone to be asking to see Dormammu in comparison to other things because there's so much discussion about how big he is. So I made sure that I was prepared and nobody's really asked. So all 3 Venoms and then a Gwenom? Wow. Let's see, what Venoms would that entail, chat? Because we got Flash Thompson, Mark Gargan, Scorpion. He wore the Venom suit. I'm sure we got to count him, right? And then Gwenom, that takes us to 3, but it sounds like we want all the versions of Flash's Venom. So let me get in here and get this little finger. Try not to muss that up. All right, so I'll put him to the side while he dries here for a second. I'll see if I got to zoom out. Okay, that almost fits. It's close enough. So there's Dormammu. Here's Thanos. Turn them so you get an actual size. And then, where did I put him? Here's the Red Hulk that my younger son painted. because I don't have my green Hulk with me. So, and then just for funsies, here you go. Here's Dormammu next to a Sin. So he is, without a doubt, largest character that we have made to date. Now let's zoom back in on poor tiny Doctor Strange. It's okay, Doctor. You don't need to be big to be cool. All right, so a little bit of undertoning going on. So hopefully the camera kind of picks up how you can see that blue and that purple. They're getting us different shades as the color dries. So I think what we'll do here, we got lots of time left. I'll do the yellow around the cape really quick, and then I think we can jump over to the portal. Next to Mini Ant-Man, can I reach Mini Ant-Man? I think the answer is that I can. Sure, I'll show him next to Mini Ant-Man. That's fine. Sorry, Doctor Strange. Dormammu's stealing the show here. Dormammu size comparisons. There you go. I'm not zooming out again. So there's Mini Ant-Man next to Dormammu. There's the leg comparison. So the size is there. The size is there. Okay, I'm gonna grab my yellow ochre, which is Sahara Desert from the scale line. Ooh, get my Doctor Strange back on camera here. And we'll just do the kind of the rimming on the cloak. And I think we'll just have some fun on the portal because honestly, we've done some good painting of Doctor Strange on the stream before. And while the spacesuit is different, once you kind of tackle the blacks, for the most part, you know, the red cape is the same. Obviously, painting his face and stuff is very similar. But it's not every day you get to paint a dimensional portal. And since our Doctor Strange did us the favor of having that glue knot stick, we've got free access to that portal, so we can get really crazy with it. But yeah, Dormammu also, not only is he the largest miniature we've ever done for the game, he's the highest threat value of any miniature we've done for the game. His affiliation is very, very Dormammu-y, like I said before. So he was a lot of fun. And of course, balancing characters like that is something that one Will Pagani loves to do. So much like with the Thanos Ultimate Encounter and stuff, Dormammu is very much a creation of the twisted mind of Will Pagani. So he took the design kind of lead on that one. And he is very, very, I always like watching him create super powered, like big boss things for games. He just has a really great feel for that and a brain for it. And you can kind of figure out like, okay, through trial and error sometimes, this is way too powerful. We had Dormammu dazing or KOing entire squads in one activation at one point. I was like, that might be a bit too much. We should dial it back. But it really was no different from the experiences that we had with Thanos and stuff. So you absolutely want to make sure with those characters that they have that sense of like grand power and terror and all that stuff. Ooh, making mistakes. It's okay, we can fix them. But on top of it all, you have to make sure that they're balanced and fun to play against, even if somewhat scary on the other side. Clean that off really quick with our damp, wet brush. There we go. Nailed it. I'll just come in and hit this, a part of the cleat. this other side over here. There we go. Sweet. All right. All will be revealed next week. My gosh, seriously? Oh, gotcha. Hey, Gamers Web UK. Midnight Suns. There's so much good stuff. Okay, and the last thing that we can do on this Doctor Strange before we dive in and spend some time on the portal. Just having fun there. I'm going to grab some Rainy Gray. I'm going to mix in some Snow White. Let's really quickly knock out the symbol on the chest, like the armor piece on the chest. Okay. And as we've talked about before, when you're painting white, you're not really wanting to paint white. You want to paint a different color. So I'm going to be using that Rainy Gray, which is, this is a nice little undercoat. And then we'll do a little shading on it, and then we can pick it back up into white. But the nice thing about this is if you do have like slop or any kind of coverage that spilled over from the blacks or the purples or the undertones, this little mix will cover it right up really quick and easy. Perfect. Just let that dry and you can go back through and pick that out here in a second. Okay, so with that done, we'll put Doctor Strange to the side and just kind of let him be. We'll go to this portal here. And let's go ahead and get crazy. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab probably a magenta. I was totally not prepared for this. Where's my magenta? My fuchsia, as it were. Okay, so kind of play with some magentas and some blacks and just make it look crazy. So, okay, and with that. Oh yeah, we haven't forgotten about Miss Kamala Khan. It's just, she got kind of an early tease because of the Aconite book that came out. So I know the studio miniature uses kind of the classic orange yellow, but I'm going to use magenta because I like magenta a bit more. I think it's an interesting magic color, and it's so poppy on camera. So I'm just taking that fuchsia and just kind of like thinning it out into a bit of a wash. Just kind of getting in there, smushing that paint in, not worrying too much about evenness or coverage or anything like that, because we're gonna come back to it and we'll kind of darken it up, put some space stuff in there, maybe put a little blues in there. And we'll just kind of mess around with it, see if we can't make it look a little bit nebula-y. And you can see that, I mean, now I think you can really see that big old key that foot goes into. And that plug right there, that's what goes all the way into that piece. So when your glue sets properly, he really sticks in there. But when your glue decides not to set in there on camera in front of the world, what do? You paint a sweet portal. That's what you do. All right. I'm not really going to worry too much about those Cocoa Puffs. Little dimensional ball things. Let's get over here. All right, so we got that. I'm going to shift over. I think I'm just going to use Halder Blue for this, honestly, because that'll create kind of a purple. So I'm going to grab some Halder Blue and kind of just going to start in the center and work my way through. So this way we'll kind of create like a little mix of purple and some weird, fabulous like color. Because my paints are all nice and wet. Kind of blend them right in there. This will create some cool and fun gradients and stuff. And the nice thing is that the engineers have this little bit of like natural swirl in there, so you can kind of follow the sculpting. Oh, I'm kind of coming off camera, sorry. Here. Strange has a new character card. It's a brand new, so Bry Guy Jr. This Doctor Strange is a brand new version of Doctor Strange, so it's not just the sculpt isn't just different. All of the rules are different. The card is different. Everything he does is different. Not everything, but you get the idea. So he is a brand new take on Doctor Strange. So that is the reason for the season. And happy accidents. That's what we're all about around here. I'm just going to grab more of my fuchsia. I'm going to pull that in. I'm just going to kind of like mix the wet blends up. Push down, push in. Have fun. Mess around. Just kind of working. So my Hulder blue and that fuchsia are making a bit of like a purple mishmash. And then once that's dry, I can go back in and take a little bit of like a darker color and put it towards the center if I want to. But I'm really just looking for like a really fabulous kind of mix of colors. So I might just kind of go around the edge here. And so now I'm just using the color that mixed directly in the brush from the 2-brush blending. I'm just kind of using that for my dark edge here. And then what I can do, let's go back through with that fuchsia. And knock that in. And so we're just really just playing with colors here. So getting a little too dark. So I think what I want to do is, because I want to maintain some of that brightness, I'm just going to kind of like use a bit of my wet brush, blend that stuff in. Again, darken it up. And then I think we'll go to, what color do I want to use next? Where do we want to go after this? Kind of head in here. I think I might grab a little bit of fluorescent pink. We go into the fluorescent pink. Got a really like grody kind of mystical color changing little portal there. So I'm just going to grab some fluoro pink. And I'm just going to use this to kind of blend out the edges and a little bit more of that pop. I might mix in just a tiny bit of fuchsia with it. Let's see what that looks like. Ooh. Yeah, that works. Give the littlest dot. That fuchsia is pretty strong. Just come through, start picking out the edges here. And again, this is still pretty wet, so we can kind of just play with it. Here, strengthen out any place that didn't get quite as much color. Now we just have to decide what we want to do with those little dimensional puffs. So I think, what do we think here? Maybe we can do something a little weird. I'm going to grab a little bit of white though. I'm going to mix it in with my pink. So I'm going to go a little bit. Just want to give those little tips like that. Really sharp kind of highlight. When my paint is still wet, I can still kind of like roughly mix them together. And I'm not being very clean here, but it doesn't really matter because this is kind of a chaotic energy swirl. So honestly, if it's a little messy or there are mistakes, it'll just kind of add to the whole effect of the piece in my mind. So I'm getting kind of artsy with it. And I like using artsy the way that Dallas, I feel like, has trained me to use artsy, which means that it's sloppy. It's like rustic cooking. You know, you don't really worry about it. You kind of just let the thing work the way it works. Neon green, oh my gosh. I don't know. That might be a little too stark. We could try it, but I was thinking maybe neon green. We could try neon green. Okay, there we go. I do want to grab. I want to grab a little bit of blue ink, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of my purple. We're just going to make a quick wash for the inside, just to kind of tint it down a little bit. This will really darken it up, but that's what we want for the middle. So we want it to really want to sell that dimensionality, so getting it nice and dark in there will just help sell that idea. So you can kind of see how it's going around. I'm really liking this colors. I think it's pretty fun. It's very different than the orange. We might even go straight to some black in there at some point, just to darken it up even further. But I think for right now, I'm pretty happy with that. Apple red. Ooh, too stark. Nice pun. Nice pun. Okay. I think just to give them a little sparkle, what do we want to do here? We can try green, I guess. So the first thing that we'll do, I mean, why not? It'll look probably like it's straight out of the 90s music video scene, but we can do it. So I'm just going to start with this ochre yellow, because I don't think that neon green itself is going to necessarily cover super well right now. So let's go back to our ochre, build that out. And maybe we'll do like those stalks as like a really dark black or something. I got one right here, one right here. And one of the fun things about this stuff is that there's really no way for people to tell you you're doing it wrong. This would be really fun to airbrush, I'm sure. Oh, it's definitely more of a cut the roof of your mouth cereal. It's not a delicious cereal. Get in there. All right, and then just really quick, we'll grab a bit of Hellbound Flesh. We'll do these stalks really quick. Hopefully this will kind of look right. But if it doesn't, super easy to fix and change later. So, because we're using such thin paints and stuff, it wouldn't be very hard to just go back and mess around with it later. And honestly, once Strange is in there, you're not going to see as much of the portal as we see right now. It's kind of where we're starting. It's working pretty well. I'm going to grab, let's just go nuts. And Okay, so for our neon green, we've got our fluorescent green, but this isn't going to work by itself. So we're going to have to use a little bit of that yellow ochre and maybe a bit of Slimer green. Seems pretty green. It's got that yellow green to it. So just ball in and make things work. So start working over that yellow, a bit like a glaze. So we do want that yellow to kind of show through a little bit. We can always build up the layers to make it stronger. A little muddy to start, but we're going to do a couple of layers of this. So we probably could have gone to like a really bright primary yellow first. And that would have even made this even more punchy, but we didn't. And so we'll just start here and go from there. But I think all things considered, this will work just fine. Oop. Here, that going on. To this green. I think we'll let that dry for a second, and we'll come back and we'll hit it with some more color here in a second. I'm just gonna clean up around those puffs with a little bit of wet brush. So you can see here how my paint is kind of running because everything's very wet in there. So I can just easily come in with my brush and kind of like smooth it out. And it'll give us a little bit of a fake OSL glow too. Cheating. All right, so now we just have to let that green dry for a second. So we'll come back to our strange. Woo! There he is. Okay. Where do we want to go on this guy? I guess we can work on. Let's just give the coat a really quick wash of red. Just kind of like give it some stuff. So, very quickly, using a little bit of crimson ink, some Vallejo red wash. Just come in and slop some wash on the cape just to give it a little bit more definition and shading, because I do think that Vallejo Air Red works almost perfectly by itself. But if you do a little bit more work, of course now we'll get a little bit on that yellow, but that's okay. You can go back through and clean that up. If you do use the wash, it'll just add that extra layer of depth and dimension. And then you can go back through if you want to, and you can do some highlights and stuff. Obviously, Doctor Strange is not going to get done in 1 hour, and that's okay. We're just kind of like knocking through some techniques here, giving some ideas for how to do stuff. Got a little bit of a spot on his cape, but that's okay. We can fix that later. I think our greens are kind of dry now, so I'll put him to the side. We'll go back to this little Cocoa Puff thing. And now we're going to add more fluorescent green. Onto our brush. Pull this up. And start to mix that. Ooh, it's still pretty wet, but that's okay. There we go. Just continue to kind of do our wet blending on here to mix the greens together and the yellows, and so that's like shiny but also kind of sickly looking. Very dimensional. Just to move kind of quick here. I think the better bet would be to just kind of let it dry if you didn't want to mush all your colors together, but sometimes mushing colors can be really satisfying and obviously will give you some pretty unique results. Doesn't always work. And then, just because I'm feeling saucy, I'm gonna grab some fluorescent yellow. Whoop. We're just gonna mash more color in there. Whoop. We wanted it to be bright. They're supposed to be like bright little Cocoa Puffs. And now we get that cool, almost tie-dyed kind of thing because we're just mashing these colors together, swirling them. You kind of see how we got this cool marbling. They almost look like interdimensional marbles now. Pulling them around, giving them that texture. And then there we go. Well, you know, Dark Dimension, radioactive Brussels sprouts. This is feeling pretty curvy, honestly. I think we're gonna grab our blue wash again. We'll just wash those little stalks. Which are also still apparently wet. Everything's wet today. I wasn't prepared. That's okay. We can wet blend with. Ooh. We can wet blend everything in this thing. It's just so moist in there. Gets this really cool like swirly tie-dye thing going on. Like sorbet. Darken that up a little bit. There we go. All right. So there's our little dimensional portal looking pretty cool. It is exactly like music television is breaking into our dimension again, I think. That or you're about to get slimed because you can't do that on television. It's a really fast, fun way to do that. The purple and blue is a mix of scale fuchsia and Holder blue. So I just wet blended the colors together. Pretty much wet blended everything in that portal, which created a purple. So this is kind of like the fuchsia and Holder blue mixing together for that purple ring. And then we use a little fluorescent pink for the spots on the outside and got ourselves a cool little dimensional portal. And we get really clever here. We can pop our Doctor Strange kind of in it. So there's kind of what it'll look like once we get them all done. I think that'll look pretty nice. Get that brush out of the way so we can focus. So there we go. Definitely didn't finish him. Lots of work left to do on this Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, but like I said, hopefully you're inspired, you're excited. We really just wanted to take a moment, kind of talk more about the Mystic Wave, show everything off, have a chance to kind of just follow up on that super awesome reveal from the video this morning by one Mr. BK. So there you go. Again, really excited for this wave to hit. I think there's going to be a lot of awesome stuff and some really fantastic hobbying and painting opportunities. So much cool things are coming. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. For those who are asking, BK did confirm that we are expecting the Mystic Wave to be in September. Dormammu is actually in August right now. Of course, there's a whole global logistics and shipping thing that's going on. So those are tentative estimate dates. We really hope that they'll hit. but everything's a little crazy right now, so do be patient. And understanding with all those people who are dealing with the pandemonium of pallet shortages, container shortages, ship shortages, all that stuff. Otherwise, chat, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope you're inspired. I hope you can't wait to open your mind, explore something a little strange. There's going to be lots more information coming on all of this new stuff in the coming weeks on all of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Dallas Kemp is going to be throwing some paint on some super cool stuff. He'll be back on Thursday. I believe that he'll be painting the one and only Blade. I want to say it's Blade. So be sure to tune in for that. I can't wait to see what he does with that miniature. It's another amazing miniature, one that just love how it came together from the concept. We completely stole it from a cover that we loved and figured out how to translate that into miniature form. And then, of course, John Schaefer will be back on Friday. I will see you again next week when I return from vacation. Can't wait to do that. I don't know what I'm painting, but I'm sure it's going to be something fun. We're going to continue to just hopefully have fun, knock it out of the park, get some games in now that everything is lifting around the country and around the world. Stay safe, of course. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Have fun with your hobby. Can't wait to see what you do. Always hit us up, hashtag Painting Protocol on Instagram. I know there's a challenge that's happening right now, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll let Dallas Kemp and BK tell you what it is in the chat. Until next time, stay safe, stay beautiful, be good to each other, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.